mas pinalakas na pagbabalita, komentaryong walang mintis, iba't ibang entertainment. Radyo natin to! Radyo natin to!
O1, now a super typhoon, signal number 5, up over 4 areas. The NTC activates amateur and civic radio groups amid Typhoon O1 threat. Over 17,000 barangays at risk from Typhoon O1, the DILG says. Also, the DILG bars foreign travel for local officials as O1 looms. DNE chief presses for early evacuation as O1 approaches. CAB cancels flights as Luzon braces for O1. PBOX warns of possible Mayon-Lahar flows due to O1. Calabarzon on red alert as Typhoon O1 strengthens. This and more on Newsline Weekend. I'm Raymond Kaibigan. Newsline Weekend begins right now. And for those of you watching on Facebook and on YouTube, glad you could join us today. Topping the weekend news, 4 areas were placed under tropical cyclone wind signal number 5 as tropical cyclone 1 intensified into a super typhoon, Pag-asa said today, early this morning. Based on Pag-asa's 8 a.m. cyclone bulletin, the following areas are under signal number 5, Polillo Islands, the northern portion of Camarines Norte, including Daet, Talisay, Paracale, Vincents, Jose, Panganiban, Mercedes, and Basud, the eastern portion of Camarines Sur, including Siruma, Caramuan, Garchitorena, Timbalak, Lagunoy, and Catanduanes. At 7 a.m., O1 was last located at 125 kilometers east-northeast of Vira, Catanduanes, carrying maximum sustained winds of 185 kilometers per hour near the center and gusts up to 230 kilometers per hour, and is moving west-northwestward at 25 kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, the National Telecommunications Commission has activated amateur and civic radio groups in its regional offices to provide assistance and emergency communications ahead of Storm 1's impact in several provinces across the country. In a statement, the NTC said the groups would be mobilized through its regional offices in line with the government's proactive and stronger disaster preparedness. The NTC underscores the vital role of radio communications in disaster preparedness and response, and recommends the continuous volunteerism of the country's amateur radio and civic communication groups in times of national emergencies, the Commission said. According to the NTC, its regional offices have already taken proactive measures as part of the preparations for the storm, which is expected to intensify into a super typhoon during its peak. The Commission noted that each of its regional offices were already coordinating with local disaster risk reduction management offices to ensure clear lines of communication and effective response coordination. Monitoring in designated emergency frequencies across UHF, VHF, and HF bands is now available to support real-time information exchange among emergency responders and volunteer radio groups, the NTC said. Regional teams have also ensured that communication equipment and facilities are fully operational with adequate power supplies and backup systems in place to maintain continuous service in the event of power interruptions, it added. NTC reminded radio operators to prioritize emergency traffic, to strictly adhere to standard communication protocols. This It said sought to ensure order and effectivity and efficiency during the onslaught of Juan. The country's 21st storm this year continued to rapidly intensify Saturday, according to Pag-asa. In other news, more than 17,000 barangay across the country identified as at risk of flooding and landslides are being urged to take immediate action as Typhoon Uwan continues to intensify over the Philippine Sea, according to the Department of Local and Interior Government. Based on the report of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, Mines and Geosciences Bureau, thousands of barangays nationwide have been classified as moderately to highly susceptible to floods and rain-induced landslides from October or November 8 to 11. Now is the time to act. Every minute counts and every barangay must be ready. We need swift, coordinated action to keep our people safe, the DILG said in its advisory. The DILG has directed local governments and disaster offices to closely monitor river systems and carry out preemptive evacuations, especially for families living near riverbanks, coastal zones, and low-lying areas. Also, the DILG has directed all elected and appointed local officials nationwide to suspend foreign travel from November 9 to 15, 2025 as Typhoon Uwan, which international name is Fung Wong, continues to threaten the country. In a memorandum issued Saturday, DILG Secretary John Vic Remulla said the directive ensures that governors, mayors, and barangay captains remain on the ground to lead pre-disaster preparations, emergency response, and recovery efforts. The order aligns with President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s instructions and the declaration of a state of national calamity. The DILG reminded officials that under the Local Government Code of 1991 and Republic Act number 10121 or the Philippine Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Act, they serve as chairs of the respective local disaster risk reduction and management councils and must be physically present during all phases of disaster management. Local governments were also instructed to assist affected communities, reactivate local price coordinating councils to prevent profiteering, and coordinate closely in their respective regional and provincial DRRMCs and DILG field offices for unified and timely action. All DILG regional directors have been tasked to ensure full compliance, the agency said, adding that visible and hands-on leadership from local officials is crucial to safeguard communities and ensure swift recovery in areas or in affected areas by the typhoon. Meanwhile, Department of National Defense Secretary and National Disaster Risk Reduction Management Council Chairman Gilbert Chodoro on Saturday urged local officials and residents to take immediate precautions ahead of Typhoon Uwan. Chodoro emphasizes the importance of preemptive evacuations in areas expected to be affected by the storm, saying communities should not wait until conditions worsen. He called on barangay officials to coordinate closely with municipal disaster officers and urged mayors and governors to supervise preparations while consulting with regional directors of the Office of the Civil Defense. He warned that Northern Luzon, Central Luzon, Metro Manila, Southern Luzon, including Southern Tagalog, Bicol region, Eastern and Central Visayas, including Cebu and Iloilo, and parts of Eastern and Northern Mindanao could experience the storm's effects. Residents were advised to avoid unnecessary travel to keep roads and ports clear for emergency operations and relief delivery. Chodoro also stressed the need to prioritize the evacuation of vulnerable groups, including the elderly, children, and those requiring special care. He said that the Armed Forces of the Philippines, or AFP, the Philippine National Police, Bureau of Fire Protection, and the Philippine Coast Guard are coordinating with local officials and international partners to assist in evacuations and relief operations. The DND also issued a memorandum reminding all concerned offices that Proclamation number 1077, which declared a state of national calamity due to Typhoon Tino, will remain in effect for 1 year from November 7, 2025, unless lifted earlier by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. Tudoro urged the public to monitor official updates through radio, television, and social media, and to report any disruptions in communication or power through established feedback channels. Meanwhile, the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, or CAAP, has suspended several domestic flights on November 9 and 10 as Typhoon Uwan approaches northern Luzon, prompting safety measures across Manila, Cebu, Clark, and other affected destinations. Passengers are advised to coordinate directly with their airlines for updates or rescheduling. Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration of PAGASA reported that the typhoon is moving eastward or westward and may approach Catanduanes by Sunday morning. Moreover, the Weather Bureau warned that it's likely to intensify into a super typhoon before landfall, and the highest possible wind signal during Uwan's passage could reach signal number 5. Although it may weaken over land, it is expected to maintain typhoon strength as it moves across northern Luzon, bringing strong winds, heavy rains, and potentially dangerous conditions to affected areas. All air travel operations are under heightened alert, with CAAP taking proactive measures in preparation for Uwan. In an advisory on Friday, CAAP Director General Raul Del Rosario instructed all airport managers to activate their respective emergency preparedness and response plans to ensure the safety of passengers, aircraft, and airport facilities. Air travelers are urged to monitor airline advisories and the PAGASA updates closely, as further disruptions may occur depending on the storm's path and intensity. Meanwhile, the Philippine Institute of Volcanology and Seismology on Saturday cautioned residents living around Mayon volcano against possible lahar flows, as Typhoon Uwan is expected to bring heavy to torrential rains over the Bicol region. In an advisory, PHIVOLC said rainfall from Saturday until Sunday could generate volcanic sediment flows or lahars, muddy stream flows, or muddy runoff in rivers and drainage areas around Mayon volcano. The agency warned that intense rainfall could mobilize loose volcanic materials from the 2018 and 2023 eruptions, triggering post-eruption lahars. PHIVOLC identified several communities at risk, particularly those along the downstream of Miisi, Binaan, Mabinit, Buyaan, Anuling, Matanag, and Bansud channels, which contain large volumes of erodible volcanic deposits. Erodible pyroclastic materials on Mayon's southwest western slopes could also feed lahars, threatening parts of Ginobatan, while other deposits may affect Dakirangay, Tumpa, Suwa, Mulad Bukad, Nasisi, Nabunton, Buang, San Vicente, Bulawan, and Lidong channels. Mayon lahars are characteristically strong, PHIVOLC said, urging authorities and communities to maintain increased vigilance, readiness, and, if necessary, preemptive evacuation in designated hazard zones across Albay. And finally, the Regional Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council has placed Calabarzon under red alert beginning Friday, November 8th, as authorities brace for the possible impacts of Typhoon Uwan. The Office of the Civil Defense, Calabarzon, which leads the Regional Council, said monitoring is ongoing at the Regional Emergency Operations Center in coordination with various national and local government agencies. The agency added that coordination mechanisms among responsive or response units have been activated to ensure quick and organized disaster operations across the region. Kaugnay nito na-activate ang Regional Interagency Coordinating Cell na binubuo ng response agencies kabilang na ang OCD, DILG, DSWD, DPWH, PNP, BFP, PCGSTL, PCGNCR at 2nd Infantry Division ng Philippine Army upang matiyak ang mabilis na koordinasyon at pagpaplano ng mga kagiyat na hakbang upang masiguro ang kahandaan, agarang pagtugon ng rehiyon sa mga potensyal na epekto ng Bagyong Uwan, the OCD said. The red alert status represents the highest level of preparedness, allowing 24/7 operations and the immediate remobilization of personnel and resources in anticipation of one's potential effects on the region. The RDRRMC assured the public that rapid response teams and local disaster offices are on standby as part of efforts to ensure readiness and swift action once the storm brings heavy rains or strong winds to Calabarzon. And those are the stories making headlines today, November 9, 2025. For Newsline Weekend, I'm Raymond Kaibigan, telling everyone to please be safe. Good morning.
Mas pinalakas na pagbabalita, komentaryong walang mintis, iba't ibang entertainment. Radyo natin to! Radyo natin to!